Hey everyone, that was really strange. My browser just froze, and I was on a roll, and it just froze and glitched, which is wild. Um, we had 2,500 people here. We were talking to Rick Wilson, and then we were talking about the breaking news that just happened with Christi Noem being the fall person for Stephen Miller and Donald Trump's failed policies. Who here is here? Is Ellie? Are you back? Ellie is here. Mehdi, did he join? Is Mehdi here? Mehdi hosted a really good iftar yesterday. Thank you for that iftar, Mehdi. I have to thank you for that later. Fantastic food. It was yeah. Sorry about that. We had about 2,400 people. We were on a roll, and it just broke. Yeah, Christy Noem, for those who are joining us late, yeah, it was glitching, right? It was weird. Sorry about that, folks. I have no idea what really happened. But yep, Chrissy Noem. What amazing timing. I was talking to Rick. We started talking at 1 o'clock. I'll have that up later. And then Rick and I predicted that Chrissy Noem, based upon the theater that we saw where Foghorn Leghorn, Senator Kennedy, and Senator Tellis joined in dragging her. But the fact that it was Kennedy who also dragged her, like, that's not good for Chrissy Noem. And Chrissy Noem, we predicted, would be the fall person for Donald Trump and Stephen Miller's disastrous immigration policies. And voila. That is a big, big, big uh, decision by the Trump administration. The fact that they let her go is a tacit admission that they have effed up. And I'm very curious to see how Christy Noem goes. Will she stay quiet? Will she be a good soldier? Will she spill the beans? I don't know, because she knows where some of the bodies are buried as well. Also, will Corey Lewandowski dump her? Yes. Yes, he will. Markwayne Mullin has been tapped, which makes it even worse because I hate his stupid three names. Markwayne Mullin is running to be one of the dumbest. I don't know if it's Tuberville or Markwayne Mullin. Who do you think is dumber? It's one of those two. You all tell me. Markwayne Mullin is a very loyal Trump reek who has humiliated himself in the past week. He's the one that's come out and said, the it's a conflict. It's a conflict. And they're like, Donald Trump said it's a war. No, it's not. He just said it's a war. Oh, so he's the one pretty much trying his best the past week on media, doing cleanup for Donald Trump. And that was also his audition. So you have to realize, for 10 years, if you watched the Trump administration, anyone who wants to get in his orbit, and I say this without hyperbole, they realize you have to get on Fox. All right, you get on Fox and CNN and you audition. That's what Donald Trump did in his first administration. Remember that his executive time. His executive time was literally just in his room, watching television and yelling at the television. And so, in order to get jobs, people literally got jobs in the Trump administration by performing for him, kissing his butt, parroting his policies, saying how great he is. And if you've seen the past week, Markwayne Mullin has been a reek who's gone out and just enthusiastically and zealously defended this war. He got the job, folks. What's his expertise? To be the head of Department of Homeland Security? He is a loyalist and a Donald Trump reek. The Department of Homeland Security, folks, I want to remind you, also is the giant infrastructure that houses ICE. What's happening right now? Disaster. ICE has killed American citizens. ICE and CBP have killed immigrants. ICE has spent $38 billion to convert warehouses into concentration camps. And Markwayne Mullin is about to take over DHS at a time where ICE has a historic low approval rating, where on Monday, YouGov poll said that 50% of Americans want to abolish ICE. Good luck, Markwayne Mullin. Good luck. You've just inherited this cluster F. But I am very curious. Ellie, I'm inviting you. I am very curious if Christy Noem goes out quietly or if she goes out guns a-blazing. Ellie, we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes. I just brought you on early. I saw you. You're news to Christy Noem.
Yeah, well, I was looking at Markwayne Mullin, and he's got an associate's degree in construction, and I'm wondering I'm wondering I mean, are we all qualified to do this? Am I qualified to go run and run DHS?
It's him in Tuberville, who I'm telling you, in running for the dumbest senator. The least qualified guy is not going to be the head of DHS, which is even worse.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, your take on Christi.
Well, I don't think she's gonna like flip and become the good side of history. I don't predict that at all. I think she's gonna become a soldier. She's gonna become one of these sort of like Steve Bannon types who just wants her job back and will start sucking up and speaking to the right people and getting a podcast. And I don't predict any kind of change of heart coming from her.
Zev is like, "It's breaking news, Waj. Noem has been fired. May do a breaking news show." I'm like, Zev, just get in here, Zev.
Just kidding. This is it.
Just don't worry about it, Zev. Just get in. Yeah, there'll be time. There'll be time to talk about this all day. Zev now is probably doing his like, let me use my technology to get 17 people.
Oh yeah.
We'll get to it, but
he's better at that than I am.
Someone said, "What's the breaking news?" The breaking news is Christi Noem is fired, and she's done in politics. I hope, yeah, probably. I don't want to be too petty because I'm fasting, but these are the world's worst people. I think her face will finally leave her. Corey Lewandowski and her face will leave. You're gonna see her face just leave.
Yeah.
Adios, Christi. And it's a Mexican. It's a pro-immigrant Mexican. That's her face. We'll get into there's gonna be plenty of time to talk about Christi Noem and Markwayne Mullin. But Zev, thank you for joining us.
Zev.
Hey there. I can't hear you yet. Let me figure out why.
We're like, Zev, don't worry. There's plenty of time to talk about Christi Noem, but we're going to get you in to talk about it real quick and the Epstein file. Your take on the Christi Noem of it all.
Big news, isn't it? It's surprising that suddenly there's a head that's falling in the Trump administration. I had not expected that one to fall, although some people were pretty right about their predictions that she was not long for the job. She's been replaced, of course, by a Republican senator from Kansas, I believe. And
Markwayne Mullin. I got
Wayne Mullin is his name. So that's interesting. I mean, it doesn't look like there'll be a change of strategy in terms of what they're going for, but it's certainly a change of leadership. I mean, she's been dogged by crisis after crisis. Her relationship with Lewandowski has been bizarre, to say the least. She's got the two deaths that happened in Minneapolis that she's still shouldering. It's not surprising that she's going. It's just surprising that Trump is letting a loyalist out of his cabinet.
And also, if Mullin, I'm reading Taniel, if Mullin were to become DHS secretary, the Republican governor would appoint his Republican successor, and then
oops, I don't know. Sorry,
conspiracy. All right. If Mullin were to become DHS secretary, the Republican governor would appoint his successor. Then there'd be a special election in November. Okay. And also, why would he agree to this job? Why will he agree to this job? This is like someone's like, as the Titanic is being hit and going down, Ellie, someone's like, why don't you take over as the captain of the Titanic?
But let me hold that kryptonite for a second.
I think he'll do it.
Yeah, this is a really embarrassing situation. I mean, he's got Pam Bondi now that's being called up in front of the Epstein committee. So that's another thing that's dogging this administration. He's got Pete Hegseth with these strange affiliations to his crusade, wars that is happening in the Pentagon. There's a lot going on in this administration, and they're obviously seeing in these polling numbers that there is nothing that they can rely on in terms of winning November. So they are going to try and make things look better. I mean, it's all optics, really. If the immigration approval ratings is down, what do? You get rid of Christi Noem and you say it's all her fault. Things are going to get better now under the new administration. Of course, we know that's not the case, but it's what they're trying to do. The good news is that they're seeing the market and they're seeing the same thing we're seeing. And there aren't enough supporters for Donald Trump and the Republicans to get reelected in November. And that's obviously causing a lot of consternation inside the White House.
It's one of those situations where, folks, you have crisis over ICE. You had the hearings. Christi Noem did not come off well at all. She got grilled by Tillis, Foghorn, Leghorn, Kennedy, the corruption. As that's happened yesterday, I've been trying to put this in the news as much as I can. Yet another person dead in ICE custody. I will go ahead and say they killed him. This was a Haitian immigrant seeking asylum, Emmanuel Damas. This story is not going away. It came out yesterday, where he had a toothache. They ignored the toothache. It turned into sepsis. He died of sepsis because they just would sepsis, folks, tooth infection. Before they just wouldn't give him a medical care. We have the story of Nurul Amin Shah. Border Patrol agents left him just to die in freezing weather in Buffalo. You see this news that also people have not forgotten Renee Nicole Good. They have not forgotten the murder of Alex Preddy. So you got the ice of it all. You have the ice of it all. He's negative double digits on immigration. You have the economy. He's negative double digits on the economy. You have this Iran war, Israel-U.S. Iran war, which is disastrous. He's come into it, Zev and Ellie, with low approval rating. There are less people approving of this war now than they were approving at the end of the Vietnam War, meaning the Vietnam War in 1973 had a higher approval rating than the beginning of this war. So as this is happening, and you have Texas. Now you got the fall person. You got the first fall person, Christi Noem. Now let's talk about the second fall person. I don't think Ellie and Zev, she's gonna fall, because I think she knows where the bodies are buried. But Zev talked about it. The Epstein files aren't going away, folks. Don't worry, we're gonna connect it all. But we have to talk about the Epstein files because they're not going away. And Donald Trump, two things can be true at the same time, Ellie and Zev. Donald Trump can try to distract from the Epstein files with this Iran war, and also white Christian nationalists and Netanyahu and the military-industrial complex always wanted this regime change. Two things can be happening at the same time. But Ellie, it seems that he cannot escape the Epstein files, and specifically the Wall Street Journal is pretty dogged on this. They haven't let go of the fact that the DOJ has yet to explain why 3 of the 4 interview summaries of the 13-year-old victim have been scrubbed.
Right. I've been doing a deep dive because I've been sick all week, so I've been spending my time just scrolling and diving into some of this information. But it is so plainly obvious that Trump is erased from these files. Like, for a guy, if you had 3.5 million files on any of our lives, and you had someone during that
terrifying, really.
Right. But let's just say somebody documented our lives in 3.5 million files, and there were 15 of those years that we had a best friend that we hung out with. How would they not show up in those 3.5 million files? That wouldn't exist, right? That's part of his day-to-day. That's his interactions, that it's meetings. There are emails. I know Trump is not a huge emailer, but there are emails. We found one email so far from Melania to Ghislaine. So there's emails from Melania to Ghislaine. These things exist, and every so often they'll miss something and we'll find it, but they're very clearly scrubbed out. You don't just disappear a person who was around for 15 years of somebody's life and they don't exist. It's impossible.
It's an ongoing cover-up, Zev, and that word is the word that you, me, Lev, Ellie have been using for several months, but Ro Khanna now used it. Hillary Clinton used that word. And you actually went and saw all the video of the Clinton deposition. What did you learn from that?
It was really instructive, Waj and Ellie. I just like the sitting through these things is just so much better than having filtered through the media lens, because you really get to see the nuance and you get to see her tone and her postures during the whole thing. She was outraged when they took a photo of her. She was so mad that they broke the rules, and it was about the breaking of the rules that really got her. She's a rules-driven person, and that they had an agreement, and that they were going to, screw up with her, and basically give her a raw deal. She was so furious. But what I learned the most is that it may be that both of them, Bill Clinton and Hillary, were targets of a intelligence operation, and they may not have been aware of it. It seems to me that they claim that they're not aware of it, and it may be that they weren't. It may be that they were just surrounded by Epstein and some other people who compromised them, especially leading into the Israel-Middle East peace talks, which many people who were involved in the Epstein saga have told me directly that Epstein was there to screw up the negotiations for peace that Clinton was holding. So, and consequently, we know that they failed. Oslo failed, and the Camp David agreement failed as well. And all of that is when you look at that result and you look at the fact that he was in the White House 17 times. There's a lot of information that they might still be covering up, the two Clintons, not because maybe because they don't really understand the complete complexity of what they were put through, of how much of an operation was going on around them, and how Jeffrey Epstein really did target that presidency. But it was just fascinating to see. I mean, I thought he was lying on some things. He was being dishonest about.
What do you think he was being dishonest about?
The thing that was struck me the most is when the air steward on Epstein's flight on the Lolita Express, who gave him the neck rub, whom he not only recalled her first name, he recalled her last name, and sort of recalled it quite fondly. I was like, I mean, if I was on a flight 20, 30 years ago, someone gave me a neck rub, I would not remember who that person was, never mind their first and last name and the whole interaction. And it just made me, it strained credulity. The fact that Epstein was in the White House 17 times, but also was a key funder for the Clintons early on. I mean, not key in that huge amounts of money, but was certainly a fundraiser. I don't believe that they didn't, Clinton did not say hi to one of his key funding people as he walked through the White House 17 times. I just don't see it. I mean, it's not likely to have happened. The White House is a small place, by the way. You would know if Epstein was in the house, and Epstein and Clinton would have gone to say hello for sure.
Folks in the chat, they're saying some people are saying everything is frozen. I can see Ellie, I can see Lev.
And I can see it on the computer screen. Everything's moving fine.
So I think this is a Substack glitch. It happened while I was talking to Rick Wilson yesterday. All of a sudden, like, my Substack just is glitched out. I think there's something happening with Substack. Maybe they're doing some probably updates. But if it is frozen for you, if you can hear the audio, welcome to our podcast.
and just hit refresh. Hit refresh and usually
hit refresh. And then secondly, don't worry, the video's coming in fine for me, Ellie, and Zev. So if it really is bothering you, we're going to have this up on our Substacks later today. Just wanted to address that because some people were saying that in the chat. Ellie, your takeaway from the Clinton what was it called? Deposition? Hearing?
Yeah, it was a deposition. These were real depositions. It was under oath. It was a big deal.
So I haven't watched the full Hillary Clinton one. I've watched the clips, but I did watch the Clinton one, or the Bill Clinton one. And I was talking to Zev about, years and years ago I worked, or maybe I didn't work on it. Maybe I just watched it, but there was a professor at Duke named Dan O'Reilly who did this documentary called Dishonesty, and it was all about the tells of dishonesty and how people lie and what to look for. And I've seen that documentary so many times because I just found it really, really fascinating. And so I found myself watching Bill Clinton and looking for these tells. And that, it's the up and to the right is the creative part of your brain. And so that's where you pull things that maybe necessarily aren't true, the looking down. And so there were a few questions where he sort of slipped into that. Again, if you step back objectively, if you take out the name Bill Clinton, if you take out the name Jeffrey Epstein, and you just put like person A, person B, and you say you flew on a flight 30 years ago, what was the flight attendant's name who came by and rubbed your neck? Like, that's ridiculous. None of us would remember that person's name. And when they launch into something where they know the full details of it, and we saw this with Leslie Wexner, it's like this random thing. I know every detail. I know what they were wearing. I know their son's, birthday and middle name. But I don't remember this major event that happened 5 minutes to the side. Like, that's obviously a key tell. Like, if you think you're being very smart by saying you remember something, and then the thing that matters, you're like, well, I don't remember that at all. That strikes me as very dishonest.
Yeah. As is the birthday book, by the way, signing this really personal note on his 50th birthday, and then he's swearing under oath that you're not even friends. You went on 26 flights with him. There must have been something of a friendship there. And just to say it's friendly is not I don't buy it. I don't buy that stuff. But I think he's got, he's hiding some things for his own personal merit there. I think, but it is good that they went in front of the commission, and I'm glad that they at least appeared. That's a big deal that they showed up.
Right. And I'm glad that they asked that it be public. I think that was very important. But I think he's one of, whatever level he was involved in this case, I think he's one of a long list of people that knew what was going on and didn't say anything. It's just that idea of like, it wasn't my place to say something.
Well, because some people were targeted. Some people were
Some
targeted
people
by
were.
Epstein as targets for his honey trapping and to get
Right.
political influence and to get state secrets and to get financial information. And so Democrats feature prominently amongst the people he was targeting and people in his circle because that's who he was targeting. He wasn't targeting Republicans per se. So, that's a really important thing to ever keep in mind. And it might be embarrassing as hell for Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, but they owe it to the Republic and they owe it to everybody to tell us exactly what happened. I mean, I don't need the gruesome details, but I do need to know whether you met him in the 1990s or not. How much money did he give you in the 1990s or not? Was he really that interested in all this policy stuff, or was he just trying to steer you into a direction on the Middle East peace talks? He certainly didn't seem that interested in the AIDS thing that Clinton used the plane for. Yet Clinton still used the plane. So
Yeah.
there's just a lot of questions around that. And I think the Clintons owe it to everybody to give us the truth on that.
Oh,
I can't hear you.
I can't hear you, Waj.
I don't know if it's me or you, but I can't hear you.
Hi.
I can't hear you. Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
You do signs. You could write.
You there now? Oh, you just disappeared. Okay, we'll wait.
He's coming back.
Hey,
He's
Ellie.
coming back. Hi, how are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm good. He's back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah,
All right, sorry. So it must have been just my browser. Can people see me now? Am I still frozen? Am I the only one that's frozen?
I see you. I see you.
Okay. So something we can't hear Waj either. Let's just wait. Sorry, something happened. Maybe it's my glitch. But either way, folks, don't worry. If you can't see us, this will be back later on. It could be mine. Literally could be my Substack because everyone else says that everyone's frozen. Okay, check it out. So what we'll do is just roll with us. There's 2,000 people. Apparently, we're all frozen, but I can see Zev. I can see Ellie. You can see me, right? Can you all see?
Yeah, and I can see you on the playback.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I can see you on my phone, and I have got the computer screen up. And if it freezes, because Substack does that periodically, it'll freeze mid live stream. You just hit refresh, and then it comes back.
Yeah, and if it doesn't, don't worry. This will be up on our Substacks once we're done, and the video will be up. And so, if you can hear us, just listen to us. You're now listening to a podcast, folks. Okay.
We should psych everyone out and I just stay completely frozen for a few seconds.
Yeah, right?
Someone says it looks like I'm crying in the video, so that's awesome.
It's the worst when you get frozen on a bad shot and you get this terrible look.
Sorry that it's frozen. So here we go. It's just, I don't know what else to do. I think it's probably Substack. But I digress. I agree with you guys that anyone who is in these files, we have to find out more. If indeed they have extensive ties. Like you, I've been following, your coverage. Hillary, she's not in the files. I don't think Hillary did anything. At the same time, the one thing that I feel like the one thing where I'm like, it might be a stretch is when she said Ghislaine Maxwell was invited as a +1. I don't think you just be invited as a +1 to a friggin' Clinton wedding, Ellie and Zev.
No.
There's a lot of stuff that was unclear about Ghislaine. I mean, especially this relationship with Doug Band, who was the Clinton body man for many years, and then afterwards, stayed on with the Clintons in the post-presidency years. I mean, it's clear that Ghislaine and Doug Band had a sexual relationship, which it hasn't been picked up in many places, but it came out in that Clinton deposition. And I was like, wait a second, this is an agent or an asset, call it what you will, who's compromising someone this close to the president of the United States. That should be setting off alarm bells. There's one email that was sent around about the dog or whoever it was, being hung like a horse. And I was like, this is incredible detail that has not been publicly revealed by anybody, except in the context of this. Of this deposition, and I'm sure Clinton would have known about something like that if Ghislaine and his body man was having an affair, or with the fact that Doug traveled on the plane without Bill Clinton a couple of times. I mean, that's all interesting to me. It's just different. It's not illegal. It's not criminal, but it suggests something else was happening.
Well, if you also search in the DOJ, so they have the Epstein search library, which is very helpful because you can just search by from so and so and
It's
find all
good.
their emails. But if you look up WJC, which is William Jefferson Clinton, there's an email address that if you think it's coming from him, it would be wild, but I'm pretty sure it's coming from an intern. But it was a ton of correspondence between whoever was writing from that email address to Ghislaine Maxwell, and it was so highly inappropriate and like kind of dumb and
That's
fraternity.
the email. That's Doug Band's email that he was using. It wasn't really, well, Clinton claims it wasn't his.
Yeah, he's just talking. He's like, maybe I'm drunk right now, and that's why I'm saying all these. Like, it's just very wild. And at first, for a while, I was like, is this Clinton? This is wild. But then I started reading into it and reading other people's posts, and it's like, okay, maybe that's not Clinton, but somebody's using his like official email to send really highly inappropriate messages.
Real quick, because people are freaking out because apparently it's frozen. It might be my Substack. So everyone, get off of my Substack and go to Zev or Ellie's. Maybe that'll fix it. Maybe there's something happening with my Substack. For those who are listening via podcast, just listen to us. And don't worry, Ellie, Zev, and me, we can see each other. So at the very least, if this is really bothering you, this will be up on Substacks later. There's 2,100 people watching. Yeah, and if it refresh, if it freezes, and if it's mine, then go to Ellie's Substack, subscribe. Go to Zev's Substack, subscribe, and this is log on from Ellie or Zev's Substack, and maybe that'll fix it. Because I think there might be a glitch with me, and the Substack people have always said that I get the weirdest glitches. So, but we always fix
You
it.
do. Well, lucky you.
Yeah, we'll fix
Because
it.
you're big and popular. You know, you're one of the biggest names here on the Substack.
No.
It just tricked everybody.
I think it's just the evil eye. That's what I call it. It's the evil eye. We talked about the Clinton depositions, right? I still think there's a lot, but the person who has not been deposed, the person who's not answering any questions, is Donald Trump, who is mentioned more times than anybody else in the files. The person, and Ellie, you wrote me about this, and let's go there if you want to go there.
Sure.
A person who I interviewed on this Substack twice, Ellie and Zev, was Michael Wolff. I asked him both times, listen, Michael, if you have these hundreds of hours of conversation with Jeffrey Epstein, why don't you just publish them? Michael, both times, his explanation, I do not find really plausible or agreeable to my sensibilities. He said, well, I've offered it to everyone. I've offered it to everyone, and, it's there. And I'm like, and then the second time I interviewed him, Ellie and Zev, I said, listen, I think I might have dropped Ellie's name. I'm like, I know some people like me, Lev, Ellie. You know what we'll do? Hell, man, I don't even have much money. I'll invest the money. I'll buy a website domain name. I hire a couple like really talented college kids.
To a Google Drive.
Yeah, we'll put it in a Google Drive, and they'll just like straight up like, you know what? We'll upload it on the website, and then we'll make it nice. And just let us do it. He goes, and I never found it convincing. His excuse for not releasing these files and these audio files. And in these audio files, folks, we know that Epstein was Donald Trump's closest friend because Epstein tells Michael Wolff he was my closest friend. Epstein also told Michael Wolff that he used to chase girls with Donald Trump ages 14 to 19. Epstein also told Michael Wolff that the first time Melania, who was at the United Nations talking very intelligently yesterday, Melania, watch my documentary. The first time Melania and Donald Trump had sex, according to Epstein, was on his jet Lolita Express. Ellie, can you tell us what you found out about Michael Wolff? And keep talking. What I'll do is I'll refresh my browser. So if I'm away, don't worry about me.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. So, the first time around when I transcribed all Epstein and Wolff's emails, we had a handful of them from November. They were pretty juicy. Like we started to see the relationship between Epstein and Wolff. Now we have 1,800 pages of emails between Michael Wolff and Jeffrey Epstein. So It's everything. And literally going through, I maybe find one email every 5, pages in that is something that I had before. So it's all brand new. The depth of their friendship was a little bit shocking. Like I knew that Wolff was trying to get close to Epstein to get information, but it became a very Bannon type relationship, which he was also friends with Bannon. This idea that Michael Wolff got banned and kicked off Breitbart is a little silly because they were hanging out as well. The thing that I find very interesting is, we have a lot of these things where he plays double agent, where he's like in an email thread talking to one person and goes, yeah, I'll tell you all about Epstein. This is great information. And then he'll take that full email thread and he'll forward the whole thing to Jeffrey Epstein so he can read whatever conversation he was having with James Patterson's
But that's just
publishers.
wild, Ellie. I mean, I'm sorry, you just said
Yeah,
that.
yeah, go for it.
I don't want us to gloss over what you just said.
Yeah, like he was playing a double agent. So he would have like the New York Magazine article that was supposed to go through that Chris Anderson took all the photos we saw on Instagram a couple months ago, these kind of wild and crazy photos he found on his hard drive. He ghosted them, he disappeared, the article was never published. And they're talking to Michael Wolff going, what's happening? Where's he going? And he goes, I don't know what's going on. And meanwhile, he's forwarding the whole thing to Epstein going, what do you want me to do? Like he was, he was talking both sides of the coin. The problem that I have, because I did see that they were sending things to like Bill Barr during the Mueller investigation. Michael Wolff was aware of this.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, like really wild stuff. And again, I've only gone through 100 pages. There are 1,800 pages. I just now published an article that's like 1,800 words from 100 pages of email. So I don't know how much stuff is out there. But like what I worry about is, Michael Wolff presented himself as being like on the good side of history. This is this bad guy Epstein. I'm going to tell you all about it. I have all this information. When in fact he was very close with him and he was protecting Epstein. He was very clearly trying to build his image. He was trying to build Woody Allen's image. We don't have any emails between him and Trump. We don't have any information between him and Trump. And I question how close he was to Trump in the White House if he wasn't doing the same thing, because we don't have that investigation. We don't have those DOJ files. And what I now wonder about those interviews, because we know that Trump was probably the one thing that Epstein was fully willing to talk about on the record, like all the stuff that Trump did. I now wonder if he's not releasing those because he's doing the same thing for Trump. He's protecting Trump in some way because if Trump gets arrested and goes to, fired, impeached, whatever, he has just lost a major source of information, right? That's his guy for information. They let him in the White House. They're not going to sue him. Melania is not going to sue him because they invite him into the White House all the time to speak with them. So I wonder if there is not some sort of a parallel relationship, but the relationship he had with Epstein was incredibly sketchy. He was working no longer on the side of journalism and public information. He was working on the side of Epstein, and there's emails about like him wanting to like discredit journalists who tried to write bad things about Epstein or truth about Epstein. He's like, you want me to take care of it? Like it's got very like mob bossy, like, and I think he liked that. He liked that kind of attention from Epstein, that he had power to control the media on behalf of him. And so anyway, I just dropped an article.
It's an amazing piece. It really is. Well done, Ellie.
Thank you.
Because I think it paints this picture of this character who shows up so much and gets all this unfettered access to Donald Trump and to Jeffrey Epstein. And how does he do that? We'd all love that story. Everyone would love to go and sit in the White House and be an eavesdrop on the president for the first few months or a year of his presidency. And Michael Wolff is the only one who gets that access. And yet he's also the only one who gets the access to Epstein as well.
Yep.
And you got to wonder if these two are aligned in their interests. Maybe Wolff is running information between the two, which would be helpful to both sides, even though they're on the same page, really. And it would be impossible for Epstein to go and talk to Trump. But if he wanted to get any information to Trump, he would have done it through Michael Wolff or vice versa. I just think I think what you're hitting on is not so much a double agent as an agent, along with all these other agents who are operating in an intelligence operation, and they're all needing to communicate with each other, and that's one way to do it.
Everyone says, "Hey, breaking news! Christi Noem is fired." We're on it. We talked about it at the beginning. We're going to talk about it later today. People are like, "You're frozen." There's some strange glitch in Substack. We can't figure it out, but I can see Zev. Ellie can see me. I think y'all can hear us. So while Substack figures out this glitch, just listen to us as a podcast. And if it really bothers you, for the 2,400 people, don't worry. It'll be up in the video on our Substacks later. We've talked about Christi Noem of it all, but what we also want to talk about, and the reason why I have Ellie and Zev on, is because I don't want you all to forget the Epstein files. And guess what? Democrats and Republicans haven't forgotten the Epstein files. And Pam Bondi has now been called to testify. What, Ellie, if you are there as a Democrat, what are the questions you want to ask Pam Bondi?
I I want to give her that like truth serum stuff, and then I just want to ask her everything. I just want to ask her first. I want to ask her why she's not willing to talk about it. Like, I mean, again, we talk about this with a lot of people, but the idea of being the ultimate hero in a story, like if you're the head of the DOJ and the Attorney General and you have the biggest investigation in history, like you will be remembered in the history books if you get this right. So what is it that is holding you back? Like what is over your head from the president of the United States that is holding you back from doing that? Because there is so much, I mean, there is so much evidence. There's 1,000 different investigations that could be launched out of this thing. I want to know where those missing 53 pages are that talk about, the 302s, the 4 interviews with the FBI from the 13-year-old girl, 13 to 15-year-old girl, who
But there's
accused
an
Donald Trump.
investigation, right? So yeah, where's the investigation?
Where is it? Like, where is it? And if you can't give it to the American public, give it to the right people in the House Oversight Committee. Give it to the right people who are actually investigating this thing unbiasedly. Nobody has seen those pages. Nobody has seen those documents. And it's literally journalists and independent journalists who are like decoding and discovering that things are missing because they can hide documents from us, but they can't hide the fact that if you look through the documents, everything has a file number and there are numbers missing. So there's a lot of stuff that has disappeared.
Your take, Zev. The House Oversight Panel just yesterday voted to subpoena Pam Bondi. If you were on the panel, what would you ask?
I'd want to know, what did the president tell her, and when did he tell her to start this cover up? Because her story has changed so much that clearly she has either been ordered or has some other reason to be launching and being involved in this biggest cover-up in U.S. history. Now, she's not willing to perjure herself. I think we saw that the other day when she was testifying in Congress. She'll say a lot of stupid things, but she's not willing to perjure herself. And if that continues to be the story as she heads in front of this oversight committee, then it's going to be a very tough day for Donald Trump, because she might dance around all the issues as best she can, but the takeaway is going to be the takeaway we all have right now, only we'll now see it in living color, is that this is a cover-up, the worst cover-up, the biggest cover-up of the biggest crime in history, and it involves the president of the United States. So the timing is also, this is getting closer and closer and closer to the elections. And the one thing that the White House wants to disappear is the Epstein investigation. It does not feel like this Epstein investigation is going anywhere. It's going to get bigger and bigger. And
even
so
during this war, Zev,
yeah,
the House is like, nah, let's talk about Epstein.
Amazing that people are still talking about it. It's surprising. Normally at wars, people are distracted. So, by the time we get to November, there is going to be even more dirt on Donald Trump, and even more people falling around him because of the cover-up. And he's going to be an embattled president by November. And if the Democrats keep up this pacing, and if the public keeps up their interest in the story and keeps pushing people to I think there's genuine interest in the story. It's not one of those stories.
I don't think the story's going away.
It's not just for politics. They love the story. People love this. People were sitting through those 260,000 views of my live Clinton deposition yesterday on YouTube. That's a lot of viewers who are just sitting through a pretty dull legal hearing and holding on to every word. So there's something going on in the story that has captured the imagination and the attention of Americans. It's not going away no matter what they do. And even a big war like the one they're launched in right now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I can.
Sorry. I think, to your point, what you were saying is, it reminds me, because I'm sure we have friends and family members, they are enraptured by the story. Folks, we're still talking about the O.J. Simpson trial, all right? I remember where I was when I saw him in the white Bronco. That was 32 years ago, and people are still making money off this. This is the motherlode of conspiracies. And I don't think this is going away. And every week there seems to be a new just horror that gets unleashed, right? I mean, it's been a while since I've talked to both of you. We have Zorro Ranch. We have Mount Sinai helping him with the doctors, right?
You did that story. That was great. That was a big story.
It's a huge story. I had Jennifer Koonings on, who was at Mount Sinai, and then she was let go. And she, about a month and a half ago, she was the one who found all this information about how Donald Trump was working with Eva and Glenn Dubin and Mount Sinai to essentially not just traffic girls, but also to get doctors to fix the girls, right? So if you've seen like Eyes Wide Shut, or if you've seen the movie Heat, it's like how Robert De Niro pays that shady doctor to fix a Val Kilmer. That's pretty much what Epstein was doing. But it wasn't like the back of some nasty little clinic. Oh, no. It was through Glenn and Eva Dubin and Mount Sinai, and Eva Dubin and Glenn Dubin. Can you tell everyone the connection to Eva and Glenn Dubin? Because I think this is another node, because now we're finally talking about the head of Victoria's Secret Unlimited,
Wexner.
People are somewhat slowly talking about Leon Black, which is good. We still haven't talked about Glenn Dubin and Eva Dubin, even though they're all in this, Ellie. It's like remarkable to me that they've just kind of skated through.
So Eva Dubin, her maiden name is Eva Anderson. She's a Swedish model. She was Epstein's most long-term girlfriend, potentially, although his last girlfriend he was with for a very long time as well. He always loved her. Even after they broke up, they still loved each other. They still stayed very close. I think she was someone that Ghislaine Maxwell was very jealous of. She ended up marrying Glenn Dubin, who's a hedge fund manager, obviously, because that's all his buddies. And they were very active in Epstein's social circles. They were very active in some of these stories, like you hear Virginia Giuffre discussing a billionaire and his wife that would come over often, which we know to be the Dubins.
I wonder who that is, a billionaire and his wife.
And that his wife participated in some of these sexual activities, even while pregnant. There was, Ghislaine Maxwell has questioned if the Dubin's oldest daughter is not Jeffrey Epstein's. I don't know how much credibility there is to that, but it has been something she brought up in her proffer. But this idea of the doctors is I believe it wholeheartedly, because he was very connected. I mean, if you look through his little black book, there are so many doctors from Mount Sinai in his little black book. He also didn't like to leave the house for any of his medical appointments, so he brought everybody to him. But you also have stories of like Virginia Giuffre when she had a miscarriage when she didn't even know she was pregnant, that was being performed by a doctor. I believe she had to be taken to the hospital, but it was very like hush hush. It was in a dark room. There was nothing signed. Everybody was told to be quiet. He had his guy that they went to who knew to be quiet, and like there was so much of that. And I 100% believe that is all true with Mount Sinai. Like there was a lot of that going on.
And to go ahead, Zeb, but real quick, to make it worse, folks, to show you, like every time, I don't know, Zev and Ellie, I've been talking to like the normies normies have been radicalized by the Epstein files. Like people are all up into conspiracy theories, and then I try to de-radicalize them, and then you get a story like this. You're like, okay, well, all right, maybe, all right. I know. It seems because it's so systemic. Like Eva and Glenn Dubin. Eva Dubin is a doctor, like Ellie said. She was Epstein's former girlfriend. Through their money, they created the cancer wing of the Mount Sinai. Right. It's literally, they still have their name on the cancer wing.
I believe their oldest daughter is also a doctor at Mount Sinai.
Yeah, and through the connections, through the money, they were then able, and then Mount Sinai is like, well, we're beholden to these really rich people. They're the ones who gave us this cancer wing. They were able to use and abuse that wealth and those connections in the hospital to then give Epstein medical treatment. And one of the stories in the latest Epstein files is that he goes all the way from Virgin Islands. He emails Eva. He says, I need a doctor. A girl fell off a tractor, an ATV, fell off an ATV and has 38 stitches. So then they have the flight log. They go from Virginia Islands. They go to Mount Sinai. They bypass all the normal, they don't check in. They don't do what everyone else does. And then they get special treatment. And then she hooks them up with a doctor who then becomes a doctor who then performs that and other surgeries.
Right.
It's not surprising. I mean, these guys were connected and is wealthy and they have a network of people. Glenn Dubin is also just an interesting character. He was the head of, he owned Highbridge Capital, which was a huge I guess I don't know which kind of fund it is, but it is one of these Wall Street institutions that was bought by J.P. Morgan, and Jeffrey Epstein was the broker for that deal. He got a $10 million payout on that huge deal, which brought all that money and all that capital to J.P. Morgan. And who did it bring to J.P. Morgan was Jamie Dimon, who claims he never met Epstein, even though he bought this company using Epstein as the broker. And so it's another sort of mysterious thing about how Epstein suddenly became a broker to this bank, all at the same time, or just a little before the allegations, or at least the criminal allegations, came out against Epstein, although they were aware before that it looked to them like it was a human trafficking operation that they were funding, and ignored it, and then still did a deal with him to buy Highbridge.
And can you also talk about, because I got you both, and there's so many stories, I don't want to let them fall. We got the Clinton depositions. We're talking about Pam Bondi with the hearing. We started talking about Christi Noem, folks. Nothing with the Epstein files, just mocking her for being fired. But we talked about the Dubins, which I think people should still talk about. Can you talk to us about the Rothschilds? How are the Rothschilds? Because this is where, and Zev, you're Jewish. You were born in Israel. I've heard the mainstreaming of kind of casual, it sounds very anti-Semitic to look at these Jews. I've heard this a lot recently. And then you want to be very careful because you're like, listen, it's not Jews. It's not all Jews. It's this is, Epstein using and abusing his ethnicity to create a cabal of like-minded Ashkenazi, Jewish dudes, and not just Jewish dudes, but rich people and wealthy people. And that's what he used it. He used his identity and ethnicity to play into this, to advance his agendas. And I just want to be very careful, folks, because you can very quickly and easily start talking about the Jews. And then we see how he used and abused his Jewish background and ethnicity to then get in connection with powerful and wealthy individuals like the Rothschilds. And then whenever you hear the Rothschild, then you got not just conspiracies now coming from your the normies, but then of course you have MAGA that has been all in on the deep state, using the word Rothschild and Soros, right? That they're the cabal, So I wanted to say that preface just to nuance it, because I don't want to be responsible for leading into it. But then you see, yes, there is a Rothschild connection. So I wanted to give that disclaimer just to make sure that people, I don't want to feed into those horrific anti-Semitic conspiracies. But then can you talk to us about how Epstein was able to connect with Rothschild and how that allowed him to use these type of tribal bonds to get him connected with all these other powerful folks?
Yeah, you can hear me now. That's good. Look, I think your preface there is really important. I grew up hearing about these stories about the Illuminati and all these Jewish families that were trying to control the world, and these are a dangerous trope, and you can't fall into it. You can't, even if you hear stuff about the Rothschilds, you can't report them, you can't talk about it because it's all this anti-Semitic trope, which is kind of good cover if you're involved in something sinister or something untoward. Which I'm not saying that the Rothschilds are, but they're very connected to everything to do with Jeffrey Epstein. And, it was Leslie Wexner during his deposition the other day, which really let the cat out of the bag when he said that it was Ellie de Rothschild who gave him the reference to hire Jeffrey Epstein in the 1980s, fresh out of a failed career at Bear Stearns, fresh out of a failed career at Dalton as a math teacher. And why hire this guy? Well, the only reason he said to hire him was because Ellie de Rothschild gave him the reference. That's a big deal. Getting a reference from Ellie de Rothschild's not easy, I'm sure. But having a reference that said that he was working directly for the family while he was in Europe, well, that changes the whole thing. Now you've got the Jeffrey Epstein in Europe working for the Rothschilds in the years before he started this whole American invasion with Ghislaine. And that is a major significant point of detail that's there. And that's just one. But then you got Ariane de Rothschild, who's his best friend, it seems, that they talk almost every day in terms of emails back and forth. She's the head of another Rothschild family, the Rothschild group out of Geneva. And she also is very interlaced with him. She hires him for $25 million in 2015 or thereabouts, 2015, I think. So this is after the fact that he was prosecuted and pled guilty. He had this continuing relationship with the Rothschilds, but they're still hiring for these ridiculous amounts of money to run interference for them. So he also told, by the way, Peter Thiel at some point in one email that he represents the Rothschild family. Well, if he represents the Rothschild family, and he has been doing it for 30 years, because that's the span of this horizon that we're seeing all his interactions with, that's very significant. If he's also part of the Israeli military intelligence world, and the Rothschilds are huge investors and big believers in Israel too, then you start to look at that as being, well, that's more than just a coincidence pattern. That's like a pattern. That's a thing with actual overlying interests and implications and operational reasoning for existing. Otherwise, none of these things would exist. But why would you create an Epstein type character, and why would you inject him into the zeitgeist with all this money and everything? Where did he get it all from? We've all been asking, where did he get the money from? The money came from the Rothschilds.
Can you do the timeline? Because there was another opening with Glenn Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, buried in the Mount of Olives, alleged ties to Mossad. Glenn Maxwell herself, Jewish, but also ties to not just influential European Jews and Jewish Americans, but literally the world, the royal family. Right? She opens up the Rolodex, and you see Epstein repeatedly kind of using and abusing these cultural bonds to get in close with certain movers and shakers within these communities. But what comes first, right? So does he hook up with the Rothschilds first? Does he hook up with Wexner first? Does he hook up with Dershowitz first? Because it seems to be, Ellie, it seems to be like, and I just want to, and the reason why I'm being very sensitive here is because we do not want to lead into these gross anti-Semitic conspiracies. I can tell you, if you're part of any ethnicity, I could, just as a Pakistani and a Muslim, this is how it works, right? It's like, oh, I know someone. He's a good guy. Is he? Yeah, he is. He's a fellow Pakistani Muslim. You want to give him a job? Sure. But you vouch for him? I vouch for him. Hey, guys, it's Ramadan. We're having an iftar. Come by. I want to introduce you to some folks. And we see, with Epstein in particular, he had this Ashkenazi Jewish type of circle that he was able to use and abuse. He got Dershowitz and Wexner and Black and the Rothschilds. Ellie or Zev, just curious if there's a connection here that, as he snakes his way and gets to Maxwell.
I remember, we were talking about this a little bit. I was trying to find my notes, but they're complicated. Was the idea of Epstein bringing Dershowitz or meeting Dershowitz at the birthday party of Lord the Rothschild, and I don't remember what year that was. It was very early on. I think it was in the 80s.
I think it was Linda Rothschild, maybe in the 90s, but somewhere around that same period.
Yeah.
But it was her party, I think.
Yeah, and then she had also claimed to have introduced Epstein to Clinton, which I thought was interesting because I always thought it was Ghislaine Maxwell who had done that because Ghislaine Maxwell was so close with Clinton. And then Epstein had taken Dershowitz from that party as a guest of honor to Wexner's birthday party in Ohio. But I don't know, and maybe Zev is better at this, but I don't know the connection of where the Wexners met the Rothschilds. Like, it's just this weird web that keeps...
It seems very incestuous.
Loopy. Yeah, very incestuous, yes.
It is incestuous, but it's the thing to do is just to stare at the facts and not go beyond the boundaries of them. And I just go back to the fact that, if you just take out the fact that you don't want to look at this Jewish conspiracy, you just want to look at what did the Rothschilds do with Wexner, what did the Rothschilds do with Epstein. It's clear that, there's 8 mystery years, secret years where Epstein disappears out of the States. He'd left Dalton, he'd left Bear Stearns, he's got no place to go. He goes to Europe for 8 years. There's a mysterious Austrian passport that shows up. And my information, my sources told me that he was training to be a spy, basically, working with Douglas Leese on the Al Yamena arms deal, this huge arms deal between the British and the Saudis. That same arms deal would involve Adnan Khashoggi. Adnan Khashoggi, very connected to Robert Maxwell because he was the Iran-Contra affair. And Ari Ben Menashe was their handler during that whole thing. So now you've got, that might have been much closer than we realized, that there was perhaps an association with Jeffrey Epstein and Robert Maxwell I know someone, Steve Hoffenberg and Ari Ben Menashe. Ari Ben Menashe told me that Jeffrey met Ghislaine Maxwell in the 80s in the London offices of Robert Maxwell.
Wow.
Well, that's 8 years earlier than she said to have met him in New York after she arrived after that Concorde flight. So what was Jeffrey Epstein doing in Robert Maxwell's office? What were they doing as they were both handling arms deals? Ari Ben Menashe told me that he was told by Maxwell that his bosses, meaning the military intelligence bosses in Israel, wanted to hire Epstein to be part of their project that they were working on, which was shipping arms to Iran at the time. And it's not lost on me that we're having a war in Iran right now. This whole story starts with Iran and then ends with Iran. It's quite something.
It's folks, and I appreciate Zev saying that we have to just look at the evidence before us. Okay, this is the evidence. The evidence is that Robert Maxwell is right now buried in the Mount of Olives, had a mysterious death, stole a lot of money, was connected to a Mossad. His daughter, Ghislaine Maxwell, was heartbroken after his mysterious death. This, right, Ellie, this really experienced swimmer who was just found drowned next to his
floating
yacht.
naked in the Atlantic.
Yeah, it just happens that all these people connected to Epstein just die mysteriously. But I digress. Then through Ghislaine Maxwell, he gets flushed with money, but not just money. He gets an entire Rolodex open to him. As this is happening, he has connections with people who also are tied to Israel, ideologically, financially, people like Leon Black, Leslie Wexner, Alan Dershowitz, who literally has been the attorney for Israel and Netanyahu. But then you also get the direct connection, right? This one you could say, all right, so far you could be like, all right, Waj, all right, Jewish Americans, Ashkenazi Jews, fine, they're connected.
I'm a Jewish guy. I've never met anyone from the Rothschild family. I've never been given any money by the Rothschild family. Most Jews have never done anything close to that,
I'm just being super, like, better for the doubt. Like, oh, okay, this just happens in these privileged circles. Not Zev, that Zev is never invited to. He did not get the Jewish invite to these circles. But you can't make the connection to Israel and spies and stuff like that. It's a little too much. But then you get Ehud Barak. Ehud Barak is the former prime minister of Israel, who then spends a lot of time, Eli and Zev, with Epstein. And now we know from the latest drop that literally Epstein is selling Ehud Barak. We have the video, audio. You should invest in Palantir. And then he spells out Peter Thiel's name. And then we just found out last week, Eli and Zev DropSite said that it was Israel that put in the surveillance equipment in Jeffrey Epstein's New York townhouse, where
really?
the video cameras in every single room. It was Israel that set that up, and that townhouse was given to Jeffrey Epstein by Leslie Wexner. So
that lines up because Wexner was highly paranoid, but Wexner was also very connected with Israel and potentially Mossad backgrounds, and so that
not just he's Mr. AIPAC really for a long period of time, and he's a massive supporter of Israel, always has been. Nothing wrong with that on the face of it, but if you're running intelligence operations or money laundering through your operations or other things, then that's wrong. And it's clear that Wexner, when he did his deposition, was basically saying, "I'm not going to get hung out to dry here myself. I'm taking everyone with me." And started naming names. He started with the big ones, with the Rothschild family and the Queen, no less.
Folks, when it comes to, I think a lot more. Listen, it's not now. Now we've seen it. So is it crazy, Zev and Ellie? I've said this before. If I'm foreign intelligence of any country, let's just say Pakistan, because my family's from Pakistan, and I know that Jeffrey Epstein is the node of all these powerful people, including billionaires, philanthropists, Silicon Valley titans, and former prime ministers, and he potentially has compromise on these people, I will do anything in my power as the foreign intelligence agent of another country to try to cultivate this man as an asset, Zev and Ellie, because I'm like, if I can cultivate this man as an asset, that means I have the goods on some of the most powerful and wealthy people on earth, and that will help my country in terms of backdoor diplomacy. Right, Zev? Just comment.
I could suggest a slight shift to the narrative there for you guys, because it's people like to just think of that's more likely, more feasible, but it's just as feasible that Israel knew that Epstein was a smart, talented guy that they could groom. They brought him to Europe, where they set him up with Maxwell. They taught him all the ropes. They set him up with Khashoggi. They came up with a plan to get him and Ghislaine to the United States together to continue the operation of Robert Maxwell on the United States side. And they would do that through this made up, bullshit story about them meeting in New York, but in fact they hadn't. They'd met 8 years ago. And my sources always told me that, it was a plan to do exactly that. And Epstein was working with Maxwell, Robert Maxwell, before he died on his finances. So he had complete awareness of how that worked. And then, he suddenly pops up out of nowhere, having spent a few years in Europe, and he's suddenly this billionaire thanks to this huge amount of money from from Wexner. None of that makes logical sense unless it's an operation that's been ordered in, that, okay, Wexner, you give Epstein all this money, you set him up, you make him the guy for us, and we're going to make him a larger than life figure that connects all these business people, politicians, and others in America, which is kind of what happened. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the story.
I mean, and it makes perfect sense, right, Ellie? Like, if you are foreign intelligence, that's what I said. I really said, if I am foreign intelligence and I see someone, suppose Epstein was Pakistani, I'm like, I'm going to do everything I can as a Pakistani to groom this guy. I'm going to tie. I'm going to use cultural ties. I'm going to use ethnic ties. I'm going to invest everything I can. And just so happened with Israel, they're all in on this. We know Israel does master surveillance. We know Ehud Barak has invested in surveillance. Mm-hmm. We know Ehud Barak was the former head of the IDF, a prime minister. And according to Virginia Giuffre, not only in part, I believe is going to be pretty clear that he helped cultivate and groom Epstein as an asset, but he was also complicit in the rapes, right? Didn't Virginia Giuffre essentially, when she's saying it's a foreign prime minister, it's pretty much... It is.
Yeah, no, I mean, and just like an aside, like there's a photograph somewhere of the island of Jeffrey Epstein's closet, and there's all these T-shirts in his closet that are IDF T-shirts. I just found that kind of interesting.
That is, I remember you showed that T-shirt. You showed that photo once, and I was like, okay, that's very revealing. Guys, I've got to run. I've got to do 11 in a few minutes. So I got to run because he's got that big announcement.
Well, no, he already mentioned it. So real quick before you leave, what did you all think about Lev's announcement that he's running?
It's good for him, and good for the constituents in his district. And I think it's just fantastic. He said it's going to be a year of action for him, and he's taking a lot of action. So
yeah. I think it's great to have people in there who know things about Donald Trump. I think that doesn't hurt.
Zev, right before you leave, real quick, I did want to ask you this, connecting the dots, especially what's happening in Iran. Is it implausible to suggest or imagine that through Epstein, that Israel and Russia and other countries actually has compromise on this administration, including Donald Trump, maybe including people like Lindsey Graham and others, that they can use to kind of bend, cajole, pressure?
It's highly likely. I mean, it's not even possible. It's probable. We don't have the evidence ourselves, but it's obvious that Trump is highly compromised, not only sexually, but financially. I think the financial compromise of Donald Trump is quite vast.
Yeah, and that brings in Russia as well, which we could talk about another time. All right, Zev, shamelessly promote yourself.
Everyone can check me out at narrative.org, NARATIV.org, and it's where I do a lot of work on Jeffrey Epstein, but also just cover the Trump administration and corruption in our democracy. And I'm here every day with Dean, except not today, at 3 p.m. at Dean Blundell. And always happy to join you guys, because you guys are my favorite people on Substack. Thanks, shout out to you, and I hope everyone follows you as well.
I wanted to join you yesterday. Sorry, but it's Ramadan. Ramadan schedule's killer, folks. So
I don't know what is the correct thing to say to you as someone who's going through is doing
Ramadan Mubarak, Ramadan Kareem.
Ramadan Mubarak. Okay.
And you should be like, this is why I'm not Muslim. And I
hey, I like the idea of fasting for a few days. It's kind of it makes you thinner, right? It's good. It's good for you too.
It's supposed to make you more spiritual, decent, good. I hope it does. But like an idiot, I do more Substack lives during fasting in Ramadan. And my co-host Danielle's like, what's wrong with you, Watch? Why are you like
Maybe
this?
It's distraction.
Maybe this is your spiritual zone. Maybe this is where you connect.
That's why, man. I get more. I'm in the zone. I'm in it. Yeah. Ellie, can you stay for 2 minutes?
Yeah.
All right, Zev. Take care, buddy.
Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. Great to see you guys. Bye.
3,000 people are watching. I know there's thank you for being patient with us. There's some weird Substack glitch. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's just Substack. I can see Ellie and Zevs. They can see me. Some people can see us. Some people can't. They say it's
No,
frozen. So you're listening to a podcast, but we're going to have this up on our Substack later today. Ellie Substack, Zev Substack. So I think you'll be able to see the video. Yes, we know that Christi Noem has been fired. We talked about it at the jump. I talked about it also with Rick Wilson. But there's also a whole bunch of balls juggling in the air. We got this disastrous Iran war. We have overreach by ICE. We have Christi Noem being fired. And we also have the Epstein files. And you know what, Ellie, I will not be surprised because I'm not a conspiracy theorist, Ellie. I have tried my best not to be, but I swear, every drop, and you and me just look at the evidence of our eyes and ears. What is evidence? We say what's evidence. When there's conjecture and speculation, we say, guys, this is what I think. This is me saying what I think now.
Right.
With what we know about the ties that Epstein had with Donald Trump, who's mentioned more than any other person in the Epstein files, Howard Lutnick, his Secretary of Commerce, by the way, Elon Musk, right? And that's just the tip. There's some other people in the Trump administration, right? Then we know Epstein ties to intelligence. Apparently, the Wall Street Journal reportedly said that that's what Alex Acosta was told, which is part of the sweetheart deal, that Epstein was intelligence. We don't know with which country. I would not be surprised if it's the United States and in Israel. We know he had ties to foreign countries. We know he had ties to the Broligarchy with Peter Thiel. Would it be surprising to say that, you know what, there's probably compromise being used by foreign countries against our administration to get us into policies that are actually self-destructive?
Yes. I think that this case, I think half the reason that they don't want to actually fully prosecute this case is because it's the biggest thing that they would have ever done in their lives. And I don't know if we even have the resources to do it. That doesn't matter though, because we still need to do it. But like every single major player in the file said, I'm not in there. I didn't do this. I thought he was gross. I only went to his house once. And then all of a sudden we have the thing that shows that they're lying. And so their credibility is shot. Elon Musk's credibility is shot. Trump's credibility is shot. Howard Lutnick's credibility is shot. Like there's a reason that they're all lying. There's a reason that they all don't want to be in there. There's a reason Michael Wolff is not sharing 100 hours of interviews with Epstein. And that is because they condemn someone for the actions that they did. And a lot of those actions have to do with financial global leaders and transfers and laundering. And that's the sad part of this, because we look at it as a sex trafficking case, which it very much is, but that is a symptom of the overall case, which was a lot of world power and corruption and intelligence and people being where they shouldn't have been. And Epstein is a great example of that. We have emails of him going to the U.S. Treasury. Why is he going to the U.S. Treasury? I don't know. But he is not in places where a man of his caliber should ever be. And people are looking to him. You know, we have it was like the second in command of the Chinese finance minister or something, like asking him how to take out a loan from the U.S. Treasury Department. Like, why are they calling Jeffrey Epstein to ask him how to take out a loan from the U.S. Treasury? Like,
I mean,
I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, exactly, right? Like you sit there, and the more opaqueness there is, the more the Justice Department covers up. I'm using that word, but so is Ro Khanna, and so is Camilla J. Paul.
It is. It 100% is. That's why they lie. That they are covering for something. They are covering it up.
Oh, we're not frozen anymore. Hey,
look at us!
Yay! We're back. Yay! Hey, the 3,200 people, you all are troopers. The fact that for 1 hour you stuck with us as there was some weird Substack glitch. Thank you so much. But can I ask you real quick, the Lutnick of it all? Because it seems like Lutnick's not getting out of this. Nope. Tell us what we know, what Lutnick said versus the reality, the lies.
Okay, let's do this. So Lutnick, I found out a long time ago, before we were really talking about Lutnick, that he is Jeffrey Epstein's next door neighbor. When we talk about next door neighbor, the way New York brownstones are set up is like, it's a strip for the whole block. It's like apartments. You have the front porch, the front porch, the front porch, but it's all one building with walls in between. He and Epstein share a wall of these two gigantic mansions. They're literally next door. His claim, because they both legally were owners of their house in 1998, or at least Wexner was, and Epstein was living there. They lived there until the day, I believe, that Epstein died. I mean, Lutnick still owns that house. He said he went over there once, saw a massage table, was grossed out, and never talked to that dude again. Well, lo and behold, we have the thing called the Epstein files. And in the Epstein files, we have emails about him going to the island. And the way he said it in his, when he spoke in Congress, he said, oh, well, maybe we stopped by there we were on a vacation and maybe we swung by. No, you have emails, multiple email threads coming from him and his wife saying, we are taking the boat from the mainland to your house. We're on the boat right now, on the way. Which dock do we use? Like, they were intentionally going to the island. Then they talk about how they brought their 4 kids, they brought their friends' 4 kids, and they brought their 4 nannies for their own 4 kids. Well, their kids were like 13, 16, 19, and 20. Like, they were not, I don't really know why they had a bunch of nannies with them, because age-wise, you wouldn't think they would need a bunch of nannies.
And he gives the ages of each kid
Yes.
in the email, which was so weird.
Yes. And then we have pictures of him on the island. We now have this picture of him walking around behind the big, theater-looking thing that he has on the island. And then you have emails later on where Epstein's, I believe, accountant or attorney, one of the guys, Richard Kahn maybe, was sending the email, but where the nannies were coming to meet Epstein on their own after the fact. Like, months later, they're like, this is Lutnick's nanny. She's going to come meet you. And then we talk about, like, either why is his nanny going to come meet him? He has no children. He's not in charge of any children. Or is nanny now becoming like a code language for something else? And did nanny actually mean something? So then you dip into that like conspiracy idea. But altogether, it is a tale of somebody who absolutely lied about his relationship with Epstein, who knows much more than we had before, who lived next door to him, what was that, 20 years? And denies everything. And so why? Again, covering up. So he is somebody who needs to be subpoenaed.
And folks, latest news with Howard Lutnick as of yesterday. This is Trump's Secretary of Commerce, who clearly lied to the world about his extremely deep, close ties to Epstein, freaking neighbors, business partners.
20 years.
Went to the island. He has now volunteered to testify. He's going to appear voluntarily before a House panel. He says, this was yesterday. And then we also have Pam Bondi, that Pam Bondi has been subpoenaed to testify about the handling of the Epstein case in front of the House Oversight Committee. Folks, the Epstein scandal will not go away. And the scandal, as we've seen, implicates tech billionaires, foreign countries, foreign leaders. It implicates Mount Sinai Hospital. It implicates so many aspects of what Ro Khanna called the Epstein class, the 1%, the billionaires who had no problem either raping girls or looking over the rape of girls if it meant having a good time or getting close to power.
Making money.
For example, Paul Weiss, the law firm, the head of Paul Weiss, just to give you an example, Brad Carr. He got introduced to Epstein by Leon Black. Epstein helped him get in a prestigious golf club. He then asked Epstein if his son could get a role in a Woody Allen movie. He was very beholden to Epstein. What was the first law firm to shamelessly bend the knee to Donald Trump and offer pro bono services? Paul Weiss. Right. It's one of those things. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but you see how incestuous this 1% Epstein class is.
And then to go a step further with that, we're now discovering that Epstein was helping to cast multiple Woody Allen films and bring him girls for his cast. So, I mean, it's just so long and complicated and upsetting, and yeah.
It's the 1%. I don't want you all, and I'll say this again because I see certain very dangerous stereotypes emerging, right? The Jews, the deep state. No. Zev is Jewish. Zev never got invited to this. None of my Jewish friends got invited to this.
Yeah, mine either.
None of my, I know a lot of white dudes. They didn't get invited to this either. This is
Yeah.
the 1%. All right. This is the 1%.
Like the 1% of the 1%.
Yeah, this is the 1% of the 1%. It's a part of this incestuous group that was doing this, the Epstein class. And also, what was the name of the Sultan?
Oh,
Who
Sultan bin Sulayem. Yeah.
Sultan bin
Ugh.
Sulayem, who is so gross.
Yeah.
And folks, yeah, he's Muslim. I don't claim him. He's so gross that he emailed, great torture video. But then
Right.
at the same time, he can't even make this issue up. Then he's doing dawah. Dawah is an Arabic word for essentially preaching, trying to invite people to Islam. Then he's doing dawah to Epstein about Islam. I'm like, bro, you can leave Islam. It's okay. Like, we don't want you. Like, we don't want you. So it's an entire class of individuals, folks. It's so disgusting. Ellie, you're doing fantastic work. I just, from the comment section, they're telling me you were sick, so I'm so happy that you made it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go lie down after
better?
this. I'm like 50% back. Yeah, I'm taking lots of naps.
Ellie has 800 kids. Ellie has 1,000 kids. I have 800 kids. So when you have as many kids as Ellie and I do, you're a petri dish for like the neighborhoods, like diseases.
Truth.
So I'm with you. I'm always sick, and my wife has great metabolism. She goes, "Why are you always sick?" And I'm like,
I'm the same way. I feel like I have a great, immune system. I think it's because I'm normally the one with like holding the puke buckets for people.
Yeah.
But this one caught me.
The first line of defense. Ellie, shamelessly promote yourself.
Hi, I am Ellie. I am on here as the Panicked Writer, or Ellie Leonard, and you can find me everywhere else at Red Pencil Script. I just finally got my YouTube page up and running, so
that's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so now it looks nice and pretty, and you can find me there too.
What's the link for the YouTube page?
I'm sure it's that is a great question. This is how techie I am. I think it's either under Red Pencil Script or just Ellie Leonard, but I'll find it. I'll link it later.
See, this is, folks, I used to be Ellie. I used to be just like her, and then I learned. And I'm trying to get people.
Remember all these links.
I'm trying to get people like, when you promote yourself and you're trying to get when you have 3,500 people watching, so it's Ellie Leonard's YouTube. And if anyone can can someone save Ellie from herself?
Here, let's find this. I'll find it right now.
And folks, Ellie, if I may, I have a partner. Yes. There's the only partner of the Left Hook. It's called Ground News. And because there's 3,500 people watching, I want to extend this to all of Ellie's fantastic listeners. Ground News is the only partner that I've partnered with. They came to me, folks. I've never solicited anyone. Everything's independent. Ground News also supports our friends Qasim Rashid. They support Katie Fang. They support Mehdi Hassan. They support the IHIP ladies. It started by a South Asian woman who was formerly of NASA. It gets its money from viewers like you. And what Ground News does, I gave it a spin because they said, we want to partner with you. And I said, I don't want to partner with anyone whose values don't align with me. Ground News is a one-stop aggregator of all the world news. So if you look at Christi Noem's firing, they'll aggregate all the news stories from around the world in a one-stop shop. But what they also do, and the reason why I actually have no problem partnering with them, is in addition to aggregating, they also audit. So each news source, they'll tell you the bias, they'll tell you if they lean left or right, they'll tell you how trustworthy they are, and then they'll tell you who owns that news outlet, which is why I'm like, oh, this is useful. And what they also do is something called Spotlight, which is show you how literally like the fringe nutty MAGA looks at like a story. And let's just be honest, how the rest of the world looks at it as well. So, Ellie, if you don't mind, I'm going to give a link to your viewers. They've given me 40% off. I don't get any money from this. Give it a spin. It's groundnews.com/hook. That again is groundnews.com/hook. 40% off for all of Ellie's viewers and listeners and Waj's, my viewers and listeners. I just talked to myself in third person. Groundnews.com/hook. 40% off. Give it a look. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, that's fine. I don't get any money from it. And also, this Left Hook and Panic Writer, everything is free. There's no paywalls. We depend on the kindness of strangers. Ellie's kept it super cheap, $5 a month. I have
it back on sale. Back on sale.
Yeah, back on sale. I have my sale. She has her sale. And the reason we had the sale was supposed to end January 1st, but people said times are tough, that the sale really, really helped them. So I have the sale on again. It's $3.75 a month forever.
Same.
lefthook.substack.com/special, $3.75 a month forever. If you want to subscribe and become a paid subscriber, I'm going to voluntarily lose money. Don't use the usual link. Use the link that we just shared. Lefthook.substack.com/special. It's $3.75 off forever. And then Ellie learned technology. She's at Panicked Writer on YouTube.
Penetrator. There we go.
So just subscribe. I have a YouTube. Ellie has a YouTube. We have Substack. Subscribe. It goes a long way. If you have some money, give it to Ellie. If you have $3.75, use the special. There's 3,600 people watching. Ellie, myself, and Zev tried our best to connect the dots and give you the up-to-date on what we've heard about the Epstein files. So sorry for the technical glitches. I believe by the time we publish this, you should have the video. Everyone take care. Be kind. I'll be back in 4 minutes. I got Dave Sirota, who's coming on. And if you want to just raise to the ground neocon centrist Democrat pieces of crap, join us. If you do not like the criticism of Democratic establishment and centrist warhawk Democrats, this next segment ain't going to be for you. But if you want to take on these mother effers who have no problem taking money from AIPAC, supporting this war, they're saying we're going to fund this illegal war. Even though it's illegal, we're going to fund it. And supporting ICE. If you want to go against them, show up in 3 minutes. You're gonna have fun time with me and David. Ellie, where are you gonna be up next?
I am gonna be on my couch.
Go sleep, Ellie. Thank you all for watching. Everyone, take care. I'll be back in 3 minutes. Ellie, rest.
Thank you. Bye.